Hi, everybody. Tonight, let's take a gentle stroll back in time, not just through a few centuries, but nearly 1,000 years. The age of the Crusades, a time wrapped in the glow of candlelight and the shadow of sword steel. We often romanticize this era in tales of knights and chivalry, of holy wars and lost kingdoms, of banners fluttering in sun-drenched fields. But what if you, a modern soul with soft clothes and clean water, were suddenly dropped into that world? This story is not just about why you wouldn't last a day in the time of the Crusades. It's about what the world felt like back then. The smells, the textures, the voices, the doubts, the fears. We're going to take this journey softly and deeply, part by part, and we'll experience it as if you lived it. Not as a knight on a glorious campaign, but as a real person, uncertain, aching, and dreaming. This is a tale of survival, of strangeness, and of waking up to a world that might not welcome you. So now, get comfortable. Let your thoughts settle like leaves drifting onto a forest floor. And let us begin. You wake up, cold. The air is unfamiliar, thick with wood smoke and something else, rank, metallic, almost sour. You don't remember falling asleep, but now you're waking into a world that is not your own. The blanket beneath you is made of coarse wool. Your body itches and your skin feels heavy. There is no mattress, no pillow, only flattened straw packed into the wooden frame beneath you, and your spine aches from it. You reach out instinctively for your phone. There is no light, only the flicker of a distant fire outside a thin wooden shutter, its warmth not reaching you. Your breath clouds in the dark. You're alone in what must be a room, though you can't tell where the walls begin or end. There's a faint rhythmic thudding, someone walking, maybe dragging something, on muddy ground just beyond. Then you hear it. Voices, low and gruff, speaking in a form of English that sounds broken, tangled with Latin or French. You can't make out the words. They're not meant for you. You're not part of this world yet. You stand up, knees cracking, and try to stretch, but your limbs feel wrong. The clothes on you are rough linen, layered with wool. No elastic, no zippers, no underwear. You scratch beneath your tunic and immediately feel self-conscious. Is someone watching? You pull a hood over your head. Stepping outside is like diving underwater. The smell slams into you first. Dung, wood smoke, iron, sweat, and something rotting in the air. It is morning, and the sky is a sheet of ash. Chickens dart underfoot. A pig squeals nearby. You feel the mud soak through the soles of your thin leather shoes, and you realize you are not protected from anything. Not from cold, not from illness, not from the men in the corner sharpening blades. This is a village, but it's not quaint. It's not friendly. It's not the Renaissance fair you once went to in college. It's survival. People glance at you suspiciously as you walk. They notice your skin, your face, your confusion. They don't know your accent. They don't trust it. You don't have calluses in the right places. You don't carry a tool. You carry nothing. And nothing in this world is a dangerous thing to carry. Your stomach rumbles. Of course you haven't eaten, but there is no breakfast waiting. There is no kettle warming gently on the stove. Instead, there's a woman crouched in the dirt, scraping black crusts off a burnt pan. She glares at you and gestures with her chin to a pile of root vegetables in a sack. You don't understand her words, but her meaning is clear. Work or go hungry. You try to ask where you are, but your words come out wrong. Modern English, clear and smooth, is met with blank stares. You are speaking a future tongue. You might as well be shouting into the wind. And then you notice something worse. Everyone is marked. The scars on their faces, the calluses on their hands, the hunched backs. You see a boy no older than 8 with missing teeth and red boils on his cheeks. A woman nursing an infant with pale, sagging skin. Men with dirt embedded in every fold of their bodies. This isn't just a hard life. This is a life without medicine, without soap, without rest. You are being watched. A man in chainmail stands at the edge of the village. His hand rests on the pommel of a sword, not drawn but not idle. He sees you. He knows you don't belong. In a world where strangers mean threats, your very existence is a problem, a puzzle, and puzzles are dangerous here. You wander quietly until your feet blister. You come across the river. It is wide, brown, slow. Women are washing cloths in it. They beat them against stones with the same rhythm as heartbeats. The water carries everything, waste, sickness, secrets. You dip a finger in and bring it to your lips. You vomit immediately. But they don't. Their bodies are used to it. You are not. By midday, you're shaking. Hunger is a drumbeat in your bones. You try to speak again, to ask for food, help, anything. You offer the only thing you have, your hands. But they laugh. Your hands are soft. They've never held a plow or carved a pike. To them, they're useless. You sit on the edge of a cart and cry quietly. No one comforts you. Children point, one throws a stone, and then comes the horn. A long, low call, a warning. It echoes across the hills. The people stiffen. Some run inside. Others grab blades or torches. The knight mounts his horse. You are left standing in the middle of the road, alone and shivering. The crusade is not a story for them. It is reality. Men will be taken, conscripted. Others will hide. The Pope's call has reached even here, and though you do not understand its full weight, you can feel the fear in their silence. As the sides behind clouds and the first stars blink awake in the freezing dusk, you realize something simple and terrible. You will not last here, not even for a day. And yet, this is only the beginning. To be continued. You do not sleep that night. The world does not let you. The cold slips through the cracks of the wooden door like a thief, stealing away what little comfort you found in the scratchy blanket borrowed from the back of the cart. Outside, the wind whispers cruel secrets. Somewhere nearby, a dog growls, and a low sob echoes from another hut, thin as parchment. You lie still, not daring to move. Your body aches from hunger, from cold, from the weight of everything you cannot comprehend. Your thoughts twist into knots. How did you get here? Is this a dream, a punishment, or something far stranger? In the dark, time loses shape. You count your heartbeats. You listen to the night breathing around you. And then the rooster cries, a single rasping crow that cuts the air like a blade. It is answered by others, scattered across the hills like rival heralds of the dawn. The villagers stir. A door slams. Feet thump on packed dirt. Water sloshes into wooden buckets. Morning begins, not with warmth, but with movement. You emerge into pale gray light. The village is already busy. Fires are stoked. Cows low in complaint as they're dragged to pasture. Children sweep muck from doorways with twig brooms. Women knead dough with red cracked hands. No one rests. No one dares. And you are already behind. Your stomach knots again. You approach the same woman from yesterday, hoping she might take pity. Her eyes flick up from the loaf she's tending to. She considers you a moment too long, then tosses you a heel of bread. Blackened, hard. You chew it like wood, grateful, ashamed. She doesn't smile. Work, you learn, is the price of existence here. To eat, to rest, to not be accused of idleness. These are earned, not given. And so you are sent to the fields. The road out of the village winds between low hedges, prickly and brown. The land stretches ahead in endless undulations, nothing like the neat rows of modern farms. No machines hum, no fences shine, just open earth and the figures bent over it like question marks. You are given a task, weeding. Your hands still sore and soft dig into clumps of earth. Your fingers find roots and worms and sharp stones. The sun is not warm. It glares weakly from behind clouds, offering no comfort. Your back begins to ache. Your legs tremble. Your breath fogs with each pull. No one speaks to you. Not really. A few glances. A grunt of disapproval when you toss the weeds in the wrong place. One boy, no older than 16, says something with a crooked smile. You don't understand, but you nod. He laughs anyway. The sound feels like sunlight, fleeting and strange. Midday arrives without ceremony. You're allowed to rest 10 minutes, maybe less. A thick stew is passed around. You hold the wooden bowl in both hands like a relic. It smells of onions and salt. You eat quickly, ignoring the splinters in your tongue, the grit between your teeth. Every bite is survival. In the distance, a bell rings. Not a church bell, something harsher. A handbell, perhaps. It comes from the road, where a rider approaches. You shield your eyes. He is dressed not in rags, but in layered wool dyed deep green. A short sword hangs at his hip. He carries a scroll tied in red ribbon. His horse is thin but proud. He does not smile. The villagers gather, hands folded, eyes down. You mimic them. The man dismounts, clears his throat, and reads. His voice is steady, trained. Though the words blur in your ears, you catch fragments. Summons, Jerusalem, glory, God's will, Lord of the manor, levy. The names of faraway places drift past your ears like ghosts. Antioch, Acre, Edessa. When he finishes, he affixes the scroll to a post. Then he rides on. No applause, no cries of excitement, only silence. The older men look at each other with worry. The younger ones glance at the scroll like it might bite them. The boy who smiled at you earlier stares for a long time, then walks away without a word. You approach the scroll. The letters are unfamiliar, sharp, written in a style that feels older than language. Someone tells you in slow, broken words that it's a call to arms. The Lord demands 10 men from the surrounding villages. They are to present themselves within the week. No refusals, no excuses. Your heart drops. The crusade is not just a story whispered from a pulpit. It is a real thing, hungry and vast, and it has reached this quiet village like a tide. That evening, the village gathers again, this time in the chapel. It is not a church as you know it, more of a stone hut roofed in thatch, walls damp with moss. Inside, the priest speaks with urgency. He is old, with sunken eyes and a tremor in his voice. He talks of sin and salvation, of sacrifice and heaven's gate. He reminds them that the Holy Land must be reclaimed. You sit at the back, unnoticed, trying to understand. You realize that these people, for all their fear, believe deeply in this mission. They believe that to go and die in Jerusalem is better than to stay and wither in obscurity. That blood can wash clean their souls. And yet when they look at their sons, their brothers, their husbands, you see their hands tighten. Not all faith is without sorrow. You walk back in silence. A child holds his father's hand tightly, whispering questions. A woman sings to herself in a broken melody. The sky above is vast and cold, stars beginning to emerge like flecks of fire in the ink. You pause, because this place, this cruel, aching, breathless place, is becoming real. You feel it in your bones now, in the dirt under your nails, in the bite of the wind, in the quiet fear in every glance. You are not dreaming, and the crusade is coming. To be continued. The night does not welcome you. You lie in the dark again, wrapped in that same rough blanket, your breath shallow. Outside the wind has stilled, but a new sound fills its place, quiet weeping. Somewhere nearby, someone is crying. The sound slips beneath doors and through the gaps in the shutters, soft as mist. You don't know who it is. You don't need to. You are beginning to understand the language of this place, not in words, but in emotions, in gestures, in silences. No one speaks of the scroll. No one speaks of the 10. But every person you pass watches each other now, silently counting, weighing who will go. Some glance at the boy who smiled, others at the larger men, the stronger ones. One man with crooked teeth spits into the dirt and mutters that his leg still isn't right. Another says nothing but quietly sharpens a small blade until the sun has long set. You sleep lightly and you dream of the sea. Not the calm sea from postcards, but one made of fire and brass, churning and endless. You see ships, crosses carved into their sails, faces staring into the horizon. A voice in your dream says your name in a language you've never heard before. When you wake, there is no sunrise, only rain. The village is soaked in gray. Mud clings to everything. The thatched roofs leak, forming puddles that children splash in with numb delight. You step outside and feel it immediately, the cold, heavy dampness that presses against your skin like wet cloth. Today, your task is to help carry wood from the forest. They give you a cart and another boy to guide you. He says his name, but you don't catch it. It sounds like it was spoken underwater. His face is open though, and his expression kind. His teeth are yellow, and he wears a pouch made of animal hide around his waist. Inside, you glimpse dried herbs, small bones, and what looks like a carved charm. The forest looms ahead. It is not majestic. It is dark, tangled, and silent. The kind of place that watches you. Trees creak, birds go quiet. You step carefully, trying not to slip. Your companion walks ahead without fear, swinging a small axe at low branches, humming a song with no melody. He stops and points. There, in the hollow of an old tree, lie bundles of sticks, pre-cut and tied with coarse rope. You help him lift them onto the cart. The weight surprises you. Wood, wet and swollen, drags at your arms. Your fingers burn. Your back cries out. You realize that every small task here, every movement, is a trial. There are no conveniences, no shortcuts. Even the simplest things, carrying wood, fetching water, pulling weeds, consume the day, the breath, the strength. And yet, these people do it without pause, without praise. You feel small. As you work, the boy tells you stories, words slow and broken so you can grasp them. He speaks of a man who once lived in the forest, a hermit, half wolf, half saint. They say he fought demons with a glance and healed fever with songs. You cannot tell if he is joking. His eyes remain solemn. He points to a tree carved with symbols, circles, stars, a shape that might be a fish or a flame. Old prayers, he says, from before. Before what? You ask. But he only shrugs. On the way back, you pass a small shrine, stones stacked like teeth with a wooden figure bound in red twine at the top. It looks like a knight, but faceless, weather-worn. You sense something sacred in it, or dangerous. The boy stops to bow his head. You do too. Back in the village, the cart is taken and the wood sorted. You're given a bowl of porridge, sour, thick, heavy on the tongue. You eat it all, then help patch holes in the side of a hut. Your fingers bleed. You don't complain. No one does. That afternoon, a man arrives from a neighboring village. His horse is lame, his eyes wide with something that could be grief or terror. You don't understand all the words, but you catch one name clearly, Jaffa. The villagers draw closer. Someone mutters a prayer. The priest clasps his hands until his knuckles pale. A woman crosses herself 3 times. Later, someone explains. Jaffa was a port, far to the south, on the edge of the Holy Land. They say it's gone now, burned, taken. The messenger carried letters wrapped in oilcloth meant for the local lord. No one asked how he got them. The crusade is not waiting for its soldiers to arrive. It is already devouring them. That night, a fire is lit in the village center. Not for celebration, for names. The Lord's steward arrives, unwelcome, unchallenged. He wears a ring with a seal you do not recognize. He speaks with authority, listing the names of the chosen. 10. Exactly 10. A few nod solemnly. One man yells and storms away. Another stares at the fire without blinking. The boy who smiled is named. He doesn't protest. He only nods once, then looks at you, just for a moment. And then he begins to pack. You watch as he gathers his few belongings. A boiled leather belt, a dried heel of bread, the axe he carried in the forest, the pouch of bones and herbs, a piece of blue cloth torn at one edge, a carved token of the Virgin Mary. You offer your blanket. He takes it. The next morning, the chosen will leave, to walk, not ride, to march south toward ships and blood and songs sung by dying men. You sit beside the fire long after the others sleep. You think of how easy it is to forget the world has teeth. To be continued. The morning comes with no kindness. It creeps in as a gray mist, soaking into your clothes before you even rise. The fire in the center of the village is nothing now but a pile of cold, blackened ash. The world feels muffled, quiet, as though the air itself is holding its breath. Today they leave. The 10. You wake before the others, or perhaps you never truly slept. The boy who smiled, his name, you learned last night, is Tebad, stands in front of his family's hut. His mother, older than her years and wrapped in layers of faded cloth, ties something around his neck, a charm made from a deer's tooth and braided thread. She doesn't speak. She just presses her forehead to his chest, closes her eyes, and walks away. You want to say something, to offer him hope, a goodbye, anything. But the words never come. He smiles, though, that crooked, weary smile. And he nods at you, like you are a friend he once knew well a long time ago. Then he turns toward the road and joins the others. 9 men, 1 boy, all with worn satchels and makeshift weapons. No armor, no horses, no banners. Only a faint hope of reaching the coast alive, where ships await those who would bleed for Jerusalem. The priest blesses them with trembling hands. He sprinkles water that smells faintly of smoke and salt. He mutters a Latin prayer, then kisses each man's brow. None of them kneel. They simply bow their heads and begin to walk. No one cheers. No one waves. The village watches in silence as the 10 disappear into the mist. One woman breaks down, her wailing sharp against the hush. She is held back by another, who whispers something over and over again. You don't catch the words, but you feel them in your spine. A promise, or a lie. The road stretches long and uncertain. Tabad doesn't look back. You spend the rest of the day in a fog. Your tasks are simple, repetitive. Stacking firewood, cleaning the chapel's stone floor, brushing straw across wet mud to make it less treacherous. No one says much. The village has lost something, even if it was by decree. It feels thinner now, echoing. In the afternoon, the rain returns. It falls in soft waves, not heavy, but constant. The earth swells. The animals grow restless. The chickens don't venture from their coops. Even the dogs lie low, ears twitching. You take shelter beneath the overhang of a storage shed. From there, you watch 2 boys build a trap from sticks and string. They work with silent focus, threading knots and balancing twigs as if they were training for something more than snaring rabbits. And maybe they are. Behind you, someone clears their throat. You turn and see the priest. He stands in the doorway of the chapel, holding a bundle of dry cloths. He nods towards you and beckons. His hands are red with age. His robes are damp at the hem, and his eyes have the look of someone who has watched too many people leave. You follow him. Inside, the chapel smells of tallow and damp stone. A single candle flickers on the altar. The priest lays the cloths beside it, then gestures for you to sit. He begins to speak, slowly, clearly. His Latin is broken with Norman tones, and sometimes he lapses at Old Frankish. But somehow you understand. He tells you of the last crusade, the first wave. How young men marched south with faith in their hearts and iron on their backs. How they sang as they crossed the sea. How they wept when they saw the walls of Antioch. How many died before even reaching it. He speaks of hunger, of dysentery, of wounds that festered, of men who forgot why they left, but kept walking anyway. He pauses, then points to a wooden carving of St. George above the altar. The figure is worn, the paint long faded. A dragon curls beneath the saint's feet. He never came back, the priest says softly. The man who carved that, he went east with his son. You look closer. There, beneath the dragon's head, is a small name carved in crooked letters, Imbertus. The priest crosses himself. Then he asks you a question, quietly. Are you one of us? You don't know what to say. Your mouth opens, then closes. You think of where you came from, your world of screens and silence, of comfort and control. You think of your hands, soft and clumsy, your ignorance of their prayers, your strange clothes, your strange mind. He watches you, then nods, as if the silence is answer enough. There's still time, he says, to find your place, even now. You leave the chapel with that sentence burning in your ears, even now, as if some door remains open, as if you are not doomed to drift here, an echo among lives far stronger than your own. That evening, you take your portion of bread and sit alone beneath the tree near the fields. The wind has settled. The clouds break in pieces, and for a moment, the sky glows orange. You think of Tabad, of the road he now walks, of the faces beside him. You imagine the sound of their boots on wet leaves, the rhythm of 10 footsteps in quiet unison, the prayers muttered under breath, the songs not sung aloud. You wonder if he will live to see the sea. You wonder if you will still be here when he returns, if he returns. And then somewhere in the trees you hear a whisper, not words, not even sound, but something like a memory of a world once warm. To be continued. The days that follow feel like they are wrapped in wool, thick, heavy, distant. The 10 are gone. Their absence is not loud. It is not marked by silence or mourning, but by the subtle way in which life closes over behind them like water over a stone. Their names are not spoken. Their tools are quietly moved. Their sleeping places taken by younger siblings or cleared for storage. Life here does not leave room for ghosts, but you feel them. In the mornings, when the mist still clings to the thatched roofs and the chickens haven't yet stirred, you look down the road they walked and half expect to see Tabad returning, smiling as though the whole thing had been a mistake. But he doesn't come. You begin to dream of other things, of stone cities glowing in the desert sun, of banners torn and fluttering, of sand soaked in blood. Sometimes in your dreams you are there, not as a knight, not as a hero, but as yourself, watching, unseen, as the world burns in a language of ash and steel. You don't speak of these dreams. No one would understand. Instead, you bury them and do what they do. You work. You learn how to split logs with a wooden wedge and mallet, how to twist flax into coarse thread, how to milk a goat without being kicked. These things do not come easily. Your hands blister, your back aches. You fail, often, but slowly you begin to belong, or at least to pass unnoticed. The villagers no longer stare when you walk by. A boy tosses you a bundle of straw without a word. A woman corrects your grip on a spade, then nods when you do it right. Even the dogs no longer bark when you approach. But still, something stirs beneath it all. Something that wasn't there before the scroll arrived. A tension, a thread pulled too tight. The Lord's men come more often now. They ride in pairs, leather-armored, chainmail clinking like coins. They say little, but their eyes move constantly, searching, weighing. They don't ask questions. They simply walk through the village, into the chapel, past the fields, and then leave. But their presence lingers. One day, they take a man, not one of the 10, someone older, a thatcher with a bad knee and a slow voice. You don't know why. No one tells you. The man's wife doesn't scream. She just watches as they pull him up onto the horse like a sack of grain. Then she turns and goes back to cleaning out the chicken coop. That night, the fire in the center of the village is not lit, and the stars seem farther away than usual. A week passes, then another. You begin to notice things. Men practicing with sticks behind their homes. Children whispering old songs not meant to be sung aloud. A woman drawing marks in the dirt, then brushing them away when she sees you watching. You hear words now that once meant nothing. Levy, pilgrimage, indulgence, siege. They hang in the air like smoke, curling through conversations even when no one means them to. One evening, while helping to repair the wooden fence that separates the village from the marsh path, you meet a man. Not a villager. He comes from the woods, walking slow, wrapped in a patched cloak the color of dry bark. His hair is long, and his beard streaked with ash. He carries a staff topped with a bundle of feathers tied with a copper wire. He walks past the others like a shadow, and yet they don't fear him. They bow their heads. You do the same. Later you learn his name, Gilhan, the hermit. They say he was once a monk, or a soldier, or both. No one knows for sure. He doesn't stay long. He speaks with the priest. They sit in the chapel for a long time, then emerge without a word. The hermit places something at the foot of the altar, a stone, smooth and black, shaped like a tear. Then he leaves. But something has changed. That night, the priest gathers the villagers. He speaks not from behind the altar, but among them, in the center of the square where the fire would normally burn. His voice is quiet, but every head turns. You catch pieces of his words, heavy with meaning. There will be more. Not 10. All must be ready. And then, the Lord tests us, but he does not abandon us. A man asks what they must do. The priest replies with a word that hushes them all. Prepare. No one asks what it means. They don't need to. The crusade is no longer something happening far away. It is coming like thunder beneath the earth, like a tide that cannot be held back. And whether they are ready or not, it will sweep through this place. That night, in the dark of your hut, you feel it. For the first time, a seed, not of fear, but of purpose. The knowledge that you are here for a reason. You don't know what that reason is. You don't know what you are meant to do. But you know this. The time for watching is ending, and soon you will have to choose. To be continued. The dawn is pale and thin, like breath on cold glass. You wake to the sound of hammers, not the soft rhythm of mending roofs or shaping horseshoes, but something harder, sharper. You rise from your pile of straw and peer through the narrow gap in the wall. Outside, 2 men are driving stakes into the ground near the edge of the village. Others join them. They carry bundles of sharpened wood, stripped and carved like spears. A line of these is forming now, circling the village's weakest edge, the side facing the old forest path, the side that has no watchtower. Something is shifting. You step outside and walk slowly, careful not to seem eager. The air is colder now, even though the sun has risen. The earth is harder, and the light does not carry warmth. A woman nearby is twisting cordage from flax. Another pours pitch into a cracked bucket. All of them have the same expression, focused, determined, quiet. The priest walks past you, and for the first time, he doesn't nod. He's carrying something wrapped in cloth, a bundle long and thin, a sword. You follow him to the chapel, where he places it carefully beside the altar. He then kneels and prays, head bowed, fingers shaking. The candlelight flickers over the rusted crossguard. This is no holy relic. This is a weapon. When he rises, he sees you. He doesn't smile, but his eyes soften. He says one word, Guardia. You don't know the word. But later someone tells you. It means watch. By midday, you are in the forest again. This time not to carry wood or gather herbs. This time you walk with others. 3 men and a girl no older than 14. All carry tools that could be weapons. Axes, long knives, even a rusted hook mounted on a stick. You hold a pole with a forked tip. You don't ask what it was for. It doesn't matter now. You are told to keep your eyes open. The forest has changed. It feels hungrier. Every sound snaps like a warning. Crows wheel overhead in tight circles. Somewhere deeper in the trees, something growls. You all stop and listen. No one moves. Then the sound fades. No one speaks of it again. You are sent to check the old path. the one that winds along the hills toward the next village, a place called Chauvry. A man named Tomas leads. He has a crooked nose and a limp from a long-forgotten accident. He walks faster than all of you. When you reach the ridge, he points. In the distance, where smoke once drifted gently from the chimneys of Chauvry, there is now only haze. Not dark, not thick, but wrong, a stillness that doesn't belong. You squint and see the ruins of a roof, collapsed, torn open. Something happened. Tomas grits his teeth. Raiders, he mutters, or worse. No one questions it. You return quickly, steps faster now, eyes darting to every movement in the underbrush. Even the girl doesn't lag behind. That night, a new fire is lit in the square. Not the gentle cooking flame of evenings past. This one is tall, angry. People gather around it with tense faces and hunched shoulders. The priest stands again, but he is not the speaker this time. Tomas is. His voice carries across the circle like the ringing of a blacksmith's hammer. He tells them what he saw, what you all saw. Then he says we must be ready. If they come this way, we fight. A man scoffs. With what? Shovels? Hooks? We're not soldiers. But Tomas looks at him with a hard glint. Neither were they in Chauvry. Silence follows. Then the priest speaks. He holds up the sword. This is not a tool of conquest, he says. It is a shield. The villagers nod, slowly. Not because they believe they can win, but because they know now they have no other choice. You spend the next days learning things no one should have to learn. How to hold a blade, how to stab with a pitchfork, how to set traps at the forest edge. The hermit returns, wordless as before. He teaches some of the older boys to build slings. He shows the women how to boil pine sap into a sticky black substance that burns skin. No one questions how he knows. You watch, you listen. And when they hand you a blunt knife and a wooden shield made from a repurposed door, you take them with trembling hands. Not because you are brave, but because now, to do nothing would be to let others die. One evening, as you patrol near the northern fields, you see movement. Not a deer, not a boar, a figure. You raise your hand. Others see it too. Bows are drawn, though no one has arrows with barbed heads. The figure stumbles, falls. You run forward before the others can stop you. And when you reach him, your heart twists. It's a boy, not Tebal, but someone like him. Thin, sunburned, barefoot, his face streaked with tears and blood. He clutches a torn satchel. His breath comes in short, ragged gasps. He whispers, "They're coming." Then he faints. You lift him, his body too light, and carry him back to the fire. The priest kneels beside him. The women press cloth to his wounds. Tomas stands back, staring toward the hills. "They're coming," he repeats. No one asks who they are, because in their hearts, they already know. The world you fell into, this medieval storm of prayer and fire, is not one of safety or mercy. It is a place where the wheels of war grind slowly at first. But once turning, do not stop. You lie awake again that night, blade in hand, to be continued. The wind changes. You notice it before anyone says a word. It sweeps across the village in a low, dragging sigh, carrying with it the scent of ash and sweat, of damp metal and churned soil. It touches the skin like a whisper from far away, a warning without a voice. The boy who arrived the night before still sleeps. His body trembles beneath a layer of wool and linen, but he breathes, shallow and quick. The women keep a bowl beside him to catch the fever sweat that drips from his brow. He hasn't spoken since that one sentence. "They're coming?" You don't know if he'll wake again, but you believe him. The village believes him too. Even those who scoffed before, those who thought the scroll on the post would be the end of it, now sharpen their plowshares in silence. Men stand longer in the fields, not to work, but to watch the tree line. Women carry knives hidden in their aprons. Children are told not to wander. Even the priest, who once preached calm, has turned the chapel into something more than holy. He places the sword on the altar each night, as though daring God to speak through it. You are given a new task. Guard duty. Not with the older men, but with a small group of younger ones. Boys, mostly. One of them is called Perrin. He's 16 and carries himself like he's seen more than he should have. He teaches you how to grip your shield without bruising your wrist, how to press your ear to the ground to feel for horses. At night, you walk the northern perimeter with him. The path is narrow, hedged by thick brambles on one side and open field on the other. The moon is little help, a thin crescent hiding behind drifting clouds. You whisper to each other, voices low. He tells you that his brother was one of the 10. He doesn't say his name, but you know it. You remember the way he stood, how he smiled without words. Tebar. Perrin doesn't know if his brother still lives. He hopes. But hope here is delicate. It bruises easily. The next morning, you are sent to help reinforce the palisade. New stakes are driven into the earth. Mud is packed around them. One man with a crooked shoulder carves long spikes and plants them at angles meant to catch ankles and knees. Children are made to carry buckets of rocks. If it comes to a siege, they say, you throw what you have, even stones, even words. You return to the chapel that evening, drawn not by duty but by something deeper. A weight in your chest you can't name. Inside it is quiet. The priest is there, kneeling. So is the hermit. They speak softly, but you catch fragments. Words like omen and judgment, trial and threshold. You sit at the back, unnoticed, and then the hermit turns. His eyes meet yours, sharp and bright as stars. He says nothing, but something in his gaze roots you to the floor. You feel as though he sees through you, not just your clothes and face, but your very origin. As if he knows that you do not belong to this century, to this story. But he says nothing. He simply nods. You return to your corner, and the candlelight flickers as though it too is unsure. That night it begins. A horn. Not the clear, brassy call of a noble rider. No, this one is low, made of hollow bone or wood, blown with purpose. It wails across the valley like the cry of some wounded animal. The village freezes. Then comes the second horn. Closer. Men grab blades, shields, buckets of pitch. Perrin grabs your arm and pulls you toward the line at the edge of the road where others already stand. Knees bent, backs tight. You feel your heart hammering like a smith's forge. Another horn, you see torches now. At first just flickers, then many. Dozens, marching. No formation, no banners, raiders. They come not with song but with hunger. They are not knights. They wear furs, scraps of armor stolen from corpses. Their faces are smeared with ash or paint. They shout in a tongue you don't know. One carries a rusted axe the size of a grown man's leg. Another wears a necklace made of ears. They do not stop at the palisade. They charge, and the world becomes noise. Perrin shouts something you don't hear. The man beside you throws his spear too early. Another slips on the mud. You raise your shield just in time to deflect a stone hurled from the dark. It cracks the wood and numbs your arm. Then they're on you. The first raider crashes into the line like a wild boar, screaming, swinging. You duck barely. He slams into your shield and you fall, sliding in the muck. Someone pulls you back. You see the priest swing his sword, badly, desperately, and cut into a raider's side. The man laughs, grabs the blade, and pulls it from his own flesh. The hermit moves like a whisper. He appears, staff flashing, cracking knees and skulls with terrifying grace. His cloak whirls, his eyes blaze. You don't remember how long the fighting lasts. It could be minutes, it could be years. But eventually the horns stop. The torches retreat. The raiders scatter. They do not win. But they are not defeated. They melt into the trees like shadows, leaving behind screams, smoke, and the sharp scent of blood on cold earth. You collapse beside a broken fence post. Your hands are shaking. Perrin crouches beside you, breathing hard, blood on his cheek, someone else's. He looks at you. You fought, he says. You don't answer, because something inside you has changed. You have crossed a line, and there's no going back. To be continued. The air the next morning is too still. It sits on the village like a heavy cloth, thick with the smell of smoke and old blood. The fires are out, but the scent remains. No birds sing. Even the wind stays away, as if it too fears to disturb the silence. You rise slowly, your muscles aching in unfamiliar places. Your palms are torn, raw from gripping the shield too tightly, and your knees are streaked with dried mud and something darker. You don't remember falling. You don't remember much at all, just noise, metal, and breath, and faces. The face of the man who struck you, the way his eyes widened, not with rage but recognition, just before Perrin's knife found his ribs. You blink the memory away. The village breathes, wounded but alive. Some are dead, not many, but enough. The priest is one of them. They found him by the chapel steps, his robes dark, his hands still curled around the hilt of his sword, as if praying with the blade itself. His face is peaceful, the wound is not. They carry him into the chapel on a wooden door. The hermit follows without speaking. The villagers gather, heads bowed. No one weeps. Not yet. There is work to do. You help dig the graves. They are shallow, the ground is too hard and the tools too few. But the priest is laid to rest with care. They place his sword beside him, not on him. The hermit sprinkles ash in a circle around the grave, muttering words that sound like no prayer you've ever heard. A new kind of silence settles, one of endings. Perrin doesn't speak for the rest of the day. He sharpens his blade with slow, angry strokes, the stone hissing with every pass. His eyes stay on the trees, as if expecting the raiders to return at any moment. You sit beside him but say nothing. Sometimes presence is enough. The boy who brought the warning, the one who collapsed at the village edge, finally stirs. He wakes screaming, flailing like a trapped animal until he's calmed with warm broth and whispered comfort. He says his name is Hugo. His village is gone, burned in the night. Only a handful escaped. He ran until he couldn't feel his legs. He doesn't remember how long. He only remembers the sound, low and cruel, of men laughing as they pulled down stone walls with ropes and fire. He describes them. Not soldiers, not crusaders, mercenaries, no colors, no code, paid by lords who don't care how the killing is done, or by no one at all. The hermit listens without blinking. Then he says they'll come again. Not as a question, as a fact. That night, the villagers meet not by the chapel, but around the fire pit in the square. They light it high again, taller than ever before, as if to remind the dark it is not welcome here. There is no priest to guide them, so the hermit speaks. His voice is low, yet every head turns. He does not preach. He does not speak of God or heaven. He speaks of land, of survival, of standing the ground beneath your feet even when your knees shake and your hands are empty. He names the dead, all of them, one by one, and then he looks around and says simply, "Now we choose." There is a pause, then Tomas steps forward. We fight, not shouted, not screamed, just spoken, plain as bread. And others follow. One by one, they step into the firelight and say the same, not because they crave war, not because they believe they will win, but because they know that if they don't, no one else will. Not the distant lords, not the soldiers who ride past without stopping, not the men in stone halls arguing over which king God favors. You feel it rise in your throat before you even know it's there. You speak. We fight. Perrin nods. Hugo watches from the edge of the circle, his face pale, his body still weak, but his eyes burn with something new. Not fear, fury. The days that follow are different. Everything is faster, more urgent. You're taught how to set an ambush, how to hide behind trees so your breath doesn't give you away. You learn to listen, not just with your ears, but with your skin. For movement, for silence that shouldn't be there. The hermit teaches you about plants that burn the eyes and how to grind them into powder. The women boil oil and pour it into clay pots sealed with wax. Perrin shows you how to shoot a bow. You're not good, but you keep trying, because now you understand what the others already knew. There is no rescue coming. There is no safety, only preparation. You begin to see the village differently, not as a place, but as a living thing. The walls, the fields, the people, they are bones, blood, breath, and you are part of it now. No longer just a visitor from another time. No longer a soft shape in a hard world. One morning, as you walk the ridge with Perrin, he stops and points to the east. Smoke, thin, distant, but coming. You say nothing. You both watch it rise, curling into the sky like the hand of something ancient and cruel. Then he says, next time they won't run. And you know he's right. The next time the fire comes, it will not pass through. It will stay. It will try to eat everything. And this time you will meet it with teeth. To be continued. The smoke lingers in the sky for 3 days. It curls upward like a slow-moving serpent, never quite reaching the clouds, never quite fading. It does not come closer, but it does not drift away either. It waits. The villagers begin to walk differently. They move quickly, even when tired. They speak in short phrases. Laughter vanishes, replaced by the clinking of blades, the scrape of wood, the tension of hushed arguments whispered behind closed shutters. Even the children sense it. They do not run anymore. They stay close to their homes, eyes wide, quiet as mice. You feel it too, the breathlessness of waiting, the stretch of hours like wire pulled too tight. You are on the ridge again, watching, always watching. Perrin stands beside you, bow strung across his back, eyes scanning the tree line with the patience of stone. The boy Hugo is here now too, still thin, still pale, but his posture has changed. He walks upright, shoulders tense, a short blade at his side. He doesn't speak much, but when he does, his voice carries weight beyond his years. He saw the end of a village. Now he is determined not to see another. That night, the hermit gathers a small group of you near the chapel ruins. The fire inside is low and blue. Smoke rises like a veil around his face. He speaks of defenses, not just of wood and stone, but of symbols, placements, rites long forgotten by the church but remembered by the land. He marks the earth in circles. He pours ash in straight lines, then scatters salt across thresholds. You watch with quiet reverence, not because you understand, but because you believe he does. And here, belief is enough. Later, you help string bells across the northern trees, small ones made from scraps of metal and old buckles, hung by thin cords to the lowest branches, hidden among the leaves. They do not ring with wind. They are meant for movement, for warning. You move with Perrin and two others, Gerbert, a heavy-shouldered man with a gentle smile, and Lean, a wiry woman whose laugh is sharp as a crow's call. Lean talks as she works. Gerbert doesn't say a word. Together you set 33 bells. As you return, Lean says, "If they ring, don't freeze." You look at her. She meets your gaze, and her voice softens. Don't freeze. It's the first thing that happens. You hear danger, and your body forgets how to move. You need to be faster than that. You nod. You do not say what you already know. You've frozen before, and you can't afford to again. 3 more days pass. The smoke thins, shifts, then disappears altogether. It should feel like relief. It doesn't. The air is too clear, too calm. The forest has gone silent again. No birds, no rustling. Even the insects seem fewer, as if something larger has frightened the very smallest things away. You sleep little. When you do, you dream of torches on the road. Not many, just 3. Coming closer. The firelight flickers in the darkness, and you stand alone, blade in hand, the village behind you. You shout, but no one hears. You swing your arm, but it moves like it's underwater. The figures draw closer. No faces, just shapes, shadows. You wake before they reach you, but their steps echo in your ears long after sunrise. That afternoon, Tomas returns from a scouting trip with a cut along his ribs and a look of steel in his eyes. He doesn't collapse. He doesn't tremble. He just points. 2 days, he says. They're coming. No longer raiders. A warband. 30, maybe more. Men with discipline. Weapons. Orders. Not a random attack. An execution. The hermit confirms it. He speaks little now, as if words are precious. He gathers the defenders, Perrin, Tomas, Lean, and others, and shows them a map drawn in coal across stretched cloth. Points of entry, escape routes, fire signal locations. You watch, you listen, you memorize. Because this time, you are not a bystander. You are a piece of the wall. You help dig trenches, shallow, narrow, lined with thorns. Not to stop the attackers, but to slow them. You line the bottom with shards of pottery and bone. Perrin teaches you how to anchor sharpened stakes into the ground at angles, how to camouflage them with loose dirt and leaves. You eat only once a day now. No one complains. You sleep in shifts, shield beside you, boots on, blade tied to your wrist. Even the stars feel sharp now, cold and watching. The night before they're expected to arrive, the village is silent, not with fear, but with knowing. You walk the perimeter once more, every step familiar, every shadow a friend. You pause near the edge of the chapel where the priest once stood, where he held the sword like a prayer. You see the hermit sitting there now, alone. He does not move as you approach. You sit beside him. The earth is cold, the stone colder. He looks at you, and for the first time he speaks directly. You were not born here. It is not a question. You nod. I've seen it, he says. The signs, the way you look at the sky, the way you flinch at hunger. He looks away. I don't know how you came or why, but you're here now, and that matters more. You feel a question rise, but he interrupts. Whatever brought you here, it knew this place needed you. Then he stands and walks into the dark, leaving you with only the whisper of wind and the weight of everything that comes with morning. To be continued. The morning of battle tastes like iron. It sits on your tongue from the moment you wake, even before the blood is drawn, even before the first horn sounds. The sky is overcast, not with storm but with silence. A silver veil stretched across the heavens, dulling the light, muting the color of the fields and trees. Nothing moves. You tighten the leather around your wrists, adjust the belt on your waist. You run your fingers along the edge of the blade they gave you, A real one this time. Not sharp like a noble sword, but owned enough to break skin, to make someone stop moving. That's all it needs to do. You find Perrin already at the barricade. He wears his brother's cloak, dark green, frayed at the hem, stained in one place with what you now know is blood. He doesn't say anything as you join him, but he nods once. A slow, steady nod. The kind that doesn't mean hello, but I'm ready. Around the village, the others take their places. Gerbert near the well, armed with a spear taller than he is. Lean up in the low tree platform, bow strung, eyes scanning the tree line. Hugo beside the chapel steps, too small for his armor, holding a short sword with white knuckles. And the hermit, of course. Moving silently, speaking softly, marking the ground in strange patterns with salt and ash, placing small wooden tokens at the edge of the fields. His staff rests on his back now. He carries a blade carved from black iron. A relic, someone whispered. A curse, someone else said, but no one questions it now. Not today. Today, all things sacred and profane walk side by side. The first sound is the distant thrum of hooves. Not many, scouts perhaps, or outriders, but behind them, more. You feel it in the earth before you see them, a faint tremble beneath your boots. Not like thunder, not like an army, but enough. Enough to know that this is real, and that you are no longer watching a dream. You grip your shield tighter. A crow calls once from the trees, then the bells begin to ring. Soft, tinkling warnings as the first hidden trip lines are brushed by movement. Then more, one by one, a pattern, a path. They are coming fast. The horn blows only once. A deep, guttural sound from the warband side, a signal, a command, and then they break from the trees. Not wild raiders this time. Not disorganized packs. These are men in armor, patched, rusted, but real. Tunics bearing sigils, faded with time. Some wear helms. Others wrap their faces with cloth. Their weapons are polished. Their eyes are cold. They run not in a charge, but in formation. Flanking left, driving center. 3 rows, synchronized. You barely have time to breathe. Then the arrows fly. Lean looses the first shot. It whistles through the air and strikes a man in the thigh. He drops. Others follow. The attackers raise shields. They fought archers before, but they don't know this land. The first man into the trench screams, his foot skewered by a buried stake. The next falls beside him, struggling in the mud. A third turns just as the hermit's trap explodes, a pot of oil and thorns bursting in his face with a roar. He staggers blindly, and Perrin finishes him with a single strike. Still they come. They pour toward the barricade, undeterred. You brace. The impact is like stone breaking stone. The line quakes, shields slam together, spears jab, screams rise and fall. A man swings an axe toward your shoulder. You block, barely. The weight knocks you back. You strike out, clumsy. You feel the blade bite something soft. You don't look to see what. You are not fighting for glory. You are fighting for time, for life, for breath. Perrin is a blur beside you, his movement sharp and practiced. He ducks, spins, drives his dagger up under a breastplate. Lean calls out from above. Gerbert bellows as he breaks a man's arm with a hammer blow. The villagers hold, longer than they should, longer than anyone could expect. The warband begins to falter. Then comes the fire. The attackers hurl pots of pitch into the village. They arc over the barricade, shattering on roofs and haystacks. Flames rise, smoke thickens. A second wave charges, more organized, heavier. They strike from the side, using the distraction. You're separated. You lose sight of Perrin. You hear Hugo scream. You try to reach him, but a blade blocks your path. A man with chainmail and a scar like a river down his cheek swings low. You parry. He presses in. You stumble. Then the hermit appears. His staff crashes against the man's skull with a sound like breaking pottery. The scarred man falls without a word. The hermit offers you his hand. You take it. Together you move through the chaos. The fire spreads. Smoke rolls through the square. Someone cries out, "Fall back!" It's Tomas. He's limping but alive, holding the chapel door open, waving others inside. One by one you retreat, not in defeat, in defiance. You pull Hugo by the arm. He's bleeding but breathing. Perrin limps in last, teeth clenched, his bow broken. The chapel door is slammed shut, barred. You press your back to the stone and slide to the floor. Everything is hot. Your ears ring. The screams outside dim, then vanish. Silence. Inside the chapel, there are 20 of you, 20 from a village that once had 60. The hermit stands in the center. He lays his staff beside the altar. Then he speaks. They'll burn the village. No one argues. They'll believe we are dead. A few nod. They'll leave. A pause. And when they do, we bury our dead. We rebuild. You exhale. Not because it's over, but because you survive. And survival in this age is the truest kind of victory. To be continued. It is 3 days before the doors open. 3 days of darkness, smoke filtering through every crack in the chapel walls. The scent of scorched thatch and old blood clings to the stone like an echo. The fire outside roared for hours, then faded. The screaming stopped. The clash of steel dissolved into silence. No one speaks much during those days. There is little to say. The survivors eat in silence, chewing hard bread and salted root vegetables rationed into fingers-thin pieces. Water is ladled carefully from a barrel placed beneath a leaking seam in the chapel roof. Sleep comes in shivers, in fits of rest broken by memories that play behind the eyes like tapestries, frayed, stinging, unrelenting. You dream often of Tibor, of the boy you once were, of the world you once knew, slipping through your fingers like sand. You do not wake screaming anymore. Now you wake still, breathing softly in the dark, waiting for someone else to stir first, waiting for proof that this world remains. When the hermit finally unbars the door, morning has already passed. He does it without ceremony. He simply rises, walks to the threshold, and lifts the timber that held the world outside at bay. It creaks with reluctance, as though even the wood fears what might be waiting. The door opens to ash. Everything is gray. The village is still standing, mostly. Some homes are blackened shells, sagging inward like broken ribs. The well is scorched, the fence gone. The northern field is burned to hard clay, as if fire had raked its fingers across the earth itself. But it still breathes, it lives. A ruin, yes, but not a grave. One by one, the villagers emerge, blinking, staggering. Their eyes dart between charred wood and collapsed roofs. No more horns, no more war cries. Just wind, just crows circling the remnants. You step outside. Your legs tremble, not from fear, but from the weight of knowing the village still has shape, that it wasn't erased, that you still belong to something. The work begins immediately, not from command, but from need. Gerbert and Lean clear debris from the square, hauling broken beams into a pile far from the chapel. Hugo digs silently beside the graves of the fallen, enlarging the earth to welcome the new. Perrin stands near the scorched fields, staring at what was once his family's home. You walk toward him. He doesn't turn. He just says it was worse in my dreams. Then he looks at you, and there is something different in his face. Not despair, not anger, resolve. We can still grow here, he says, and that becomes the phrase whispered between broken stones. We can still grow. That evening, a meal is shared. What little remains, some roots, a handful of dried berries, thin broth boiled over a small, newly lit fire. You sit in a circle outside the chapel. The sky above is streaked with pink and ash, and the stars begin to pierce through. No one speaks of the dead, but you see them. In the empty places between those who survived, in the tools left untouched, in the sounds that no longer echo, no laughter, no footsteps of children chasing goats, no chants from the chapel steps. The hermit stands holding a clay bowl in his hands. He pours water onto the earth, just a small stream. Then he says, "Let what we lost feed what we build." Nothing more. He sits again, and the stars burn a little brighter. The next morning, you begin again, not as a stranger, not as a visitor, but as one of them. You help rebuild the fence, cutting lengths of green wood from the trees that survived. You learn to strip bark, to shape the points, to lash them with cord. Your hands no longer bleed when you work. You climb the ridge with Perrin. No smoke on the horizon, just mist curling over the hills. He hands you a bow, newly strung, lighter than the one before. You try it. Your grip is steadier, your aim truer. The arrow sails into the stumped target and sticks. Perrin smiles. A quiet thing, a rare thing. That afternoon, a traveler appears. Not a soldier, not a raider, a boy, perhaps 15, mud-caked and silent, carrying a bundle wrapped in cloth and a broken knife tucked into his belt. He does not speak when you first find him near the southern path. Just stands there, watching the rebuilt fence like it's the gates of heaven. You bring him to the village. He eats, drinks, and then he finally says, "I came from Brain," a village you've never heard of. Burned, he tells you, gone. He walked 2 days through woods and fields, looking for somewhere that still had light. Lean touches his shoulder. You found it. And that night, a place is made for him near the fire, just as it was for you. The chapel is no longer only a place of worship. It becomes the heart of the village. Its stone walls are used to dry herbs, to hang pots, to store tools. Children are taught to write in the ash on its floor. Parents stand watch on its roof some nights. Others use its shadows to pray, not with words, but with the stillness of survivors. You sleep near its door now. The breeze slips under the threshold like a forgotten song. You lie awake, listening to it, remembering what was, and waiting for what still might come. To be continued, the seasons begin to shift. You notice it first in the trees, leaves dulling to the color of old copper, their edges crisping as if the sun had kissed them too long. Then in the air, colder now, with a sharpness that tugs at the throat when you breathe too deep. The mornings take longer to warm. The nights arrive sooner. Autumn has come. Not with ceremony, not with the golden glow of painted scrolls, but with quiet like a woman entering a room barefoot. The village adjusts. Fewer hours are spent on the ridge, more in the fields, collecting what little can be salvaged from the wounded earth. Turnips, onions, bitter greens. The northern field, once scorched, has yielded a few stubborn shoots. Enough for soup, but not much more. You work beside Perrin and Hugo, hauling bundles of straw to insulate the remaining huts. Hugo no longer flinches at sudden noise. He no longer walks behind others either. His voice has deepened slightly, and he speaks with an ease that surprises even him. At night, he carves. Small figures from wood, animals, saints, faces. One he gives to you without explanation. It's crude, a man holding a shield, but you keep it near your sleeping place. There's something sacred in its simplicity. One morning, a rider approaches, not with banners but dust. The villagers see him from the ridge, and by the time he reaches the outer fence, 3 bows are trained on him. He raises his hands, dismounts slowly, and calls out a name. Tomas. Tomas comes. They speak in hushed tones while others watch from the shadows. The rider carries a satchel heavy with folded paper, sealed with wax. The symbol stamped on it is unfamiliar, an abstract bird, wings outspread. It belongs to a new lord, apparently. A man who claims the valley now, one who sends letters instead of blades. The message is clear. Swear fealty, send grain, shelter no fugitives, speak no heresy. Refuse, and the next visit will not be peaceful. There is no signature, only the mark. The villagers gather in the chapel that night. The hermit holds the letter in one hand, a candle in the other. His face flickers in and out of shadow as he reads it aloud, voice steady, without inflection. When he finishes, he lays it on the stone floor. No one speaks for a long time. Then Thomas says, "We have no grain." Lean replies, "We have no reason to bend our knees." But it is Gerbert who asks the question none of them want to face. What if they come anyway? The hermit says nothing. Instead, he places the letter into the fire. The wax melts, the paper blackens, and still, he says nothing. The silence becomes the answer. The days grow colder. Frost begins to kiss the ground each morning, leaving white fingerprints on rooftops and fence posts. The animals huddle closer. Fires are lit before the sun even rises. Still, the villagers work, reinforcing the chapel walls with packed clay, lining the perimeter with dry bramble to slow any approach. Traps are reset, arrows fletched. There is no panic, only preparation. Even the children help, carrying buckets of stones, learning to tie knots. The boy from Brame, now called Osric, takes to the routines with quiet urgency. His eyes are always watching, always counting. You find yourself wondering how old you were when you stopped being a child. Then realize maybe you still were when you arrived, but not anymore. One night, the stars vanish. A low fog rolls over the hills like spilled milk, thick and wet, cloaking the world in damp silence. You sit watch with Perrin, the two of you atop the chapel roof, wrapped in blankets and silence. He speaks softly. "My brother loved the cold." You look at him. Perrin doesn't turn his head. He'd break the ice on the well just to see it shatter. Said it was like watching glass explode. Even when his fingers went red, he laughed. You picture it. Tabard, smiling that same crooked smile, wine chapping his cheeks. He said he'd send a letter when he reached the sea, Perrin continues. Said he'd write about what the salt air tasted like. About the ships with painted sails. Said I'd read it and want to follow him. A long pause. You wait, but no letter came. You place your hand on his shoulder. It stays there. for a long time. The next morning, a scout returns, not from outside the village, but from within. Hugo and Osric had been checking the old burial mounds beyond the marsh, ensuring none had been disturbed. Instead, they found tracks, fresh, hoofprints, heavy, deep. 3 riders, moving fast, moving light, just like before, but they did not approach the village. They circled it, then vanished again into the trees. They were watching. Perrin clenches his jaw when he hears this. You feel your heart sink, not from fear, but from exhaustion. From the knowledge that winter is coming, and with it, more than just cold. But the hermit says one thing, and only one. They are not the only ones who can watch. So new watchers are chosen, you among them. Each night, 2 pairs walk the border, quiet, slow, listening not only with ears, but with memory. You know the way the ground should sound, the way the wind moves the trees. You learn the difference between a deer's step and a man's. You learn how fear smells on the breath. The village changes again, not in shape, but in spirit. It no longer waits for danger, it leans toward it, like a wolf baring its teeth. And somewhere inside that new silent fierceness, you feel something you haven't felt in weeks, a strange warmth. Not safety, not yet, but kinship. Like the hearth inside a home whose windows are boarded, like a flame in the hollow of the storm. To be continued. The first snow comes in the dead of night. You wake to a world hushed beneath white. Every roof, every fence post, every crooked stone in the field carries a soft crown of powder. The trees wear their silence like robes. Even the sky, heavy with clouds, feels closer, as if the heavens themselves are bowing low to listen. No horns, no fire, no riders, just snow. You step outside and your boots crunch lightly across the frost-bitten earth. Breath rises in delicate plumes. The wind is gentle, whispering between the huts like a mother soothing a fevered child. Others emerge too. Hugo, Osric, Perrin, Lean, Gerbert, one by one, wrapped in cloaks and furs patched with cord and leather. They say nothing, and you do not need them to. The stillness is sacred. The peace, though thin as paper, is real. For now. You look around and see the remnants of battle buried under white. Ash softened, trenches filled in, scorch marks smoothed away. Even the chapel's broken window glitters as though repaired by ice itself. It feels almost clean, but you all know better. Snow does not erase, it only covers. Winter brings new rhythms. The work becomes quieter, more focused. You spend hours inside now, weaving rope, repairing cloaks, boiling roots into thick stews that fill the chapel with their bitter, earthy scent. Perrin teaches you how to tan hide, how to scrape fat from stretched leather until it softens. Lean shows you how to insulate boots with rabbit fur. Osric teaches knots, tight ones that don't loosen with frost. Everyone teaches now. Everyone learns. There are no children here anymore, only survivors with small hands. The cold does strange things to time. It stretches the days, shortens the light. Mornings blur into afternoons. Dusk arrives like a thief, stealing color from the sky. You begin to measure hours by routine instead of sun. When the firewood is brought in, when the broth is stirred, when the watchers are changed, you grow used to the dark. You become part of it. On the ridge one evening, you sit with Hugo, wrapped in silence. He traces shapes in the snow beside him, symbols perhaps, memories. You don't ask. Instead, he speaks. When I was little, he says softly, I thought snow meant everything had forgiven itself. You glance at him. He shrugs. It made the world quiet. I thought that's what peace was. You both stare into the white distance. It's not, he says. You nod, but neither of you says what you both feel. It's close, almost, but not yet. 2 weeks into winter, the riders return, not with blades, with words. You see them approach at midday. 3 men on lean horses, wrapped in heavy cloaks marked with the black sigil of the bird. They carry no lances, no visible swords, only the shape of command in their posture. The villagers gather, tense. Tomas meets them at the edge of the path. You and Perrin stand close behind. The hermit watches from the chapel steps, arms folded inside his sleeves. The lead rider speaks. We have returned for your oath. His voice is calm, cold as the frost beneath your boots. Tomas does not respond. The rider continues. Lord Chardon offers protection, order. In exchange, you will pay tithe. You will follow his law. You will kneel. Silence. Then Tomas replies, no. A single word, not loud, but it ripples through the snow like thunder. The rider narrows his eyes. Do you understand what you refuse? Perrin steps forward. We understand better than you think. The other two riders shift slightly, hands to their belts, but the lead raises a hand. Very well, he says. You will be marked as disloyal. The next time we come, it will not be with parchment. He turns his horse, pauses, then looks at you, for just a moment, not in recognition, but in curiosity, as if he senses you don't quite belong, as if he smells something foreign in your skin, your stance, your silence. Then he rides on, and the snow begins to fall again. The village is quiet that night, not with fear, but with clarity. There is no doubt now, no more waiting. The storm will come, whether in a week or a month or with the first thaw of spring, and when it does, it will come not to test, but to claim. The hermit gathers you after dark, drawing maps in the frost, whispering old routes into the hills, naming allies who might still live across the valley. He speaks of choices: hold, flee, burn, hide. But he says one more thing. This place has remembered what it means to stand, and you believe him, because you have felt it. In every hand that reached for yours, in every scar and stitch and line of soot, in the silence that no longer feels empty. You stand outside that night, alone for a while, letting the snow fall onto your shoulders. And you whisper something to the dark, not a prayer, not a promise, just one word: soon. To be continued. The snow keeps falling, day after day, night after night, until the village becomes a cradle of white silence. The paths are buried, the fences softened into shapes without edges. Huts wear caps of snow so thick that the roofs groan under their weight. The world shrinks. But inside the village, life does not stop. It merely changes shape. Fires burn day and night. Wood is rationed but never entirely withheld. Those who shiver are moved closer to the hearths, where blankets stitched from old tunics are passed like gifts between those who need them most. No one sleeps alone anymore. Even fear begins to huddle for warmth. You spend much of your time inside the chapel now. What was once a place of worship, then of war, has become the heart of the village in every sense. Its stone walls hold not just tools and stores, but laughter, memories, voices. There are songs now, quiet ones, old ones, sung while skin is sewn, while arrows are fletched, while bread rises slow in the heat of the stones. And sometimes you laugh. You who came from a world of blinking lights and humming machines, laugh with men and women who have never seen glass windows or written letters with ink. You laugh, and it feels like remembering something you'd once forgotten, something very old and very human. But beneath the laughter is vigilance. Each evening, watchers climb to the high points, the ridge like the chapel roof, the skeletal tree at the village edge. You take your turn. You always take your turn. The forest hasn't moved, but it watches. The snow is its skin now, and the wind its breath. The trees groan at night like sleepers dreaming uneasy dreams. Once you see footprints, not deer, not rabbit, human, leading close to the village, then away again. You report it. The hermit nods. The traps are reset, the lines redrawn. You sleep with the blade beside you again. Then comes the day of the storm. Not a battle, a real storm. It begins with wind shrieking through the trees like a mourning woman. Then the snow, so thick and fast it blinds. It doesn't fall, it attacks. It tears sideways across the fields, buries fences and howers, slams into shutters with fists of frozen fury. You are inside the chapel when it hits. The walls creak. The fire nearly chokes from the gusts that find every tiny opening. The children are quiet. Perrin holds the door closed with his shoulder, while others lash it shut with rope. Gerbert paces. Lean counts the food stores with flint-eyed precision. The hermit sits still. He watches the flames as if waiting for them to speak, and in a way they do. That night you have a dream, not like the others. This one is clear. You are standing in the village, but it is not the village you know. The sky is gold, the ground warm. Flowers bloom in the snow. Tabad stands near the fence, unburned, unburied, smiling. He says only one thing: you stayed. Then he fades, and you wake with tears in your eyes. The storm ends on the third day. What remains is a world remade. The drifts are waist deep in places. Some of the smaller huts have collapsed, but no one died. Not this time. The village endures, and something has changed. Not in the weather, in the people. There is pride now, not the loud kind, but the kind that settles in the bones. They have faced fire. They have faced blades. Now they have faced the sky itself, and they are still standing. Perrin helps dig out the northern path. You work beside him, shoveling snow with a wide plank of wood. It's slow work. Your breath fogs and clings to your scarf, but it's warm beneath your layers, and your heart does not pound with fear, only with effort. When you rest, Perrin looks at you and says, "Do you miss it?" You don't ask what he means. You know. The world you came from. You think for a long time before answering. "I miss its ease," you say, "not its heart." Perrin nods. You were meant for this one. And for the first time, you almost believe it. Later that night, the hermit gathers a few of you in the chapel. He lays a cloth on the floor and begins drawing again. Not maps this time, symbols, old ones. Circles within circles, eyes, spears, fire. "These are not spells," he says, "they are memories." He points to each. This is how people once endured before kings ruled, before churches rose, when the land was both grave and mother. You watch as he mixes ash with oil and paints a symbol on the door. A ward. Not to keep enemies out, but to remind them what waits within. He offers the brush to you, and you paint the next one, a crooked sun. Your hands do not shake. The sky stays clear for several days after, and on one of them, one cold, brilliant morning, Osric shouts from the ridge. You run to him. In the distance, beyond the hills, 3 plumes of smoke rise. Small, too small for an army, too steady for raiders. A village? A camp? The hermit climbs to see. He squints, silent, then says, "They're watching again." You clench your fists, but he continues. "Good." Everyone turns. He smiles. They will see that we are not dead. They will see that we prepare. And when they come, if they come again, this time we will not survive. A pause. We will live. And suddenly, the wind feels warmer, even in winter, to be continued. The snow begins to melt. Not all at once, never all at once, but slowly, shyly, like a beast retreating into the shadows. The frost thins along the fence posts. The paths become slush, then earth. Icicles drip in quiet rhythm from the eaves of every roof. And one morning, just as the sun brushes the horizon, you hear something you haven't heard in months. A bird. Just one, but enough to make Perrin stop mid-step and glance skyward with wide, wondering eyes. Spring is not here, but it is near. With the thaw comes labor, harder than before, somehow more exhausting. The snow has hidden everything, broken beams, rotted stores, the bones of the fire's last fury. You and Hugo clear the well first, breaking the remaining ice with stones, then pulling up the bucket to test the ropes. The water is cold, sharp, clean. It tastes of stone and old dreams. Others dig out the old root cellar, patch the collapsed roof over the grain shed, redig the trenches that once held the line against raiders. The ground is soft now, but heavy. Every shovelful of dirt clings like it does not want to let go. You do not complain. No one does. This is the kind of tired that earns its place. One afternoon, as the sun warms the chapel steps for the first time in weeks, Osric finds something. A medallion, buried just beneath the churned mud beside the old palisade. Simple, copper, worn, a symbol of a saint, though no one can agree which. Some say Michael. Others say a local spirit, once worshipped before the priests came. The hermit studies it for a long time, running his thumb over its surface, then ties it with a leather cord and places it around Osric's neck. He doesn't say why, but none of you ask. It belongs there. With the change in season, so too changes the village's rhythm. Children, if they can still be called children, begin training again, with sticks first, then blades dulled on stone. Perrin teaches stance and balance. Lean teaches how to fall without breaking bones. Thomas returns to walking the ridge each evening, eyes narrowed, counting shadows. You are tasked with the watch once more, but this time you are not paired with another. You are trusted alone. It's strange how silence used to haunt you, how in the first days it felt like an enemy wrapping its hands around your throat. Now it feels like an old companion, one that walks beside you, listens with you. The woods breathe, you breathe with them, and still you watch. The riders don't return, but neither do they vanish. From the top of the ridge, you still see smoke sometimes in the far hills, beyond the river bend. Someone watches from afar, measuring, waiting. Perhaps the new lord, perhaps another warband. No one doubts there will be another test. Only when. The hermit speaks less now, but when he does, the village listens with rapt attention. He says things like, "Survival is no longer the goal. We are not roots hiding from winter. We are the green that dares to return." He shows you plants growing beneath frostbitten soil, tiny green shoots stubbornly pushing toward light. He names them like family: nettle, burdock, vetch. Things that feed, things that heal. Then he says, The land is listening again, and no one laughs, because they feel it too. One morning, you return from patrol and find Perrin standing in the square with a bundle in his hands, cloth, rolled and tied with a leather thong. He unfolds it slowly, and you see what he's been hiding. A length of fabric, dark green, roughly dyed, stitched by hand. Upon it, a symbol, not a noble crest, not a saint, a flame, curved, open, cradling a tree within it. He says, I want them to see it. You understand. It's not a flag of conquest. It's a flag of endurance, of rebirth, of refusal. By dusk, it hangs from the chapel peak, fluttering against the still cold wind. And when the villagers gather to see it, no words are needed. They simply stand and nod. Later, as the stars prick the sky and the fire burns low, you sit near the chapel with Hugo and Osric. Perrin dozes with his back against a tree, one hand resting lightly on the hilt of his knife. Osric speaks first. You think they'll come in spring? You consider the question. Then say, I think they'll come when they think we've softened. Hugo chuckles, low and bitter. Then they'll be surprised. You smile, not because of bravado, but because you've seen the way this village bends and never breaks. You've felt its warmth in winter, its fury in fire, its silence in sorrow. You've become part of it, and it part of you. Once you were a visitor, then a witness. Now you are a wall. And if they come again, they will not find a ruin. They will find roots. They will find thorns. They will find a village that remembers everything and forgets nothing. To be continued. Spring arrives not with fanfare, but with a quiet exhale. You feel it first in the soil, when your fingers press into the earth and it gives without resisting. Then in the air, where the cold no longer bites but brushes. Streams that once lay silent under ice now murmur again, trickling down into valleys like silver veins. And then in the trees, buds appearing like secrets along every branch. Everything awakens, including you. The village stirs from its long stillness. The smell of thawed mud replaces that of smoke. Huts are open to let the air sweep out the dampness. Cloth is washed and hung from ropes like sails on a still sea. Laughter returns. Not often, but enough. Children, smaller from the winter's rationing, take cautious steps beyond the fence to find the world again. You help where you're needed, hauling timber, turning soil, feeding animals with hands calloused by 100 days of vigilance. Hugo and Osric construct new perches for the chickens. Gerbert lays the foundation for a new smokehouse. Lean plans a signal tower, just a small one on the ridge. She says it won't be seen from the sky, only from the road. Just enough to say, we see you too. The flag still flies, worn now by wind and rain, but proud. Its green threads dulled, but the flames still clear. Every evening as the sun dips behind the chapel roof, that banner flutters in silhouette, a soft, constant heartbeat. One afternoon, Perrin finds you near the northern fence. He hands you something small and wrapped in cloth. Inside is a dagger, not old, not crude, new, balanced. Its handle is carved with the same flame tree symbol as the flag. You look at him. He shrugs. Made it over the winter. Figured it was time you had something better than a bent blade and a lucky stance. You test the weight. It fits your hand like it was waiting for it. You say only one word, thanks. Perrin nods. Spring's here. Might not get to enjoy it long. You are on the ridge when the first bird call sounds. Real birds this time. Not the lonely crows of war-watched skies. Finches, wrens. Their voices bright, delicate, impossibly alive. It nearly breaks your heart. You sit in the grass, watch the clouds drift. It would be beautiful if not for the smoke. Not close, not urgent, but there on the horizon again. Not one plume, several, controlled, spaced. Too uniform to be accident. Campfires, military, a returning presence. They are not hiding this time. You hurry down the ridge. Perrin, Lean, the hermit, they are ready before you speak. That evening, the village gathers, a fire is lit, and the hermit stands beside it. He has changed. The lines in his face are deeper, the gray in his beard darker. But his eyes burn with something almost young. He speaks softly. We have tasted fire, and we did not burn. We have tasted ice, and we did not crack. Now comes the spring, and with it, the world believes we will forget. He pauses, letting silence settle. But we remember, and we are not afraid. No cheering follows. Only the sound of hands tightening on tools, of breath being held, of hearts steadying themselves. This is not a battle cry. It is a ritual, a preparation. The scouts report what you already guessed. An army, Not large, but professional. Standards bearing the black bird crest. Spears, pikes, shields. Marching under the name of Lord Chardon, they're not here to negotiate, they're here to collect or crush. The hermit's plan unfolds quickly. Routes are marked for evacuation, should it come to that. Allies in the hills are sent word through smoke and hawk. Children are taught again how to hide in the roots of the old oak near the marsh. But this time, something is different. This time, no one talks of running first. They talk of slowing the enemy, of outlasting them, of making them bleed. You're not sure if that frightens you or fills you with pride. Maybe both. That night, sleep finds you late. You lie in the half-dark of the chapel, listening to the wind shift through the wooden rafters. The dagger parent maid lies at your side. The flag rustles outside. You think of your old life, distant now, like a song you haven't heard in years. You remember warm beds, clean water, noise that never stopped, and you realize you don't miss it. Because this place, for all its pain, gave you something truer: belonging, purpose, family. In the silence, a voice speaks, not aloud, but within, a thought like breath against the skin. This is your war, not one of conquest, but of keeping, of guarding the last good fire. You close your eyes and dream not of battles, but of spring flowers pushing up through broken stones. To be continued. The first messenger arrives at dawn. He is young, no older than Osric, with a torn cloak and blood on his sleeve. He does not knock. He simply stumbles through the frost-heavy field and collapses near the chapel's door. By the time you reach him, he is barely conscious. 2 words he whispers. They're close. Then he faints. You carry him inside. The hermit tends to the gash on his arm, but it's not life-threatening. The boy is more scared than wounded. Perrin crouches beside him, asks where they are, how many, how far. The boy lifts one trembling hand and points north. 2 days, less if they don't stop. Not just soldiers, siege carts. The village changes again, not in panic, in silence. Bows are checked, traps reset. The chapel is emptied of supplies and turned into a fallback shelter. The ridge paths are cleared for movement, not for hiding. Children are given packs and drills are rehearsed in low voices. There is no confusion now, no questioning. Everyone remembers the last time the enemy came. No one wants to relive it, and no one intends to flee from it, not first. The hermit calls a meeting by torchlight. You stand with Perrin and Lean, Tomas and Gerbert, Osric and Hugo, faces hard, ready. The wind rustles the banner above, its tattered green edges dancing like a flame in the dark. They are not coming for diplomacy, the hermit says. They come to crush, to silence. No one interrupts. They expect fear, but they will find roots, stones, teeth. He lays a hand on the map drawn on high, rivers, slopes, the broken trail into the eastern valley, the high trees where archers can perch, the old trench line. This is not strategy. This is memory turned into defense. Then he looks at you. You will lead the left line. You blink. For a moment, the wind seems louder. You see clearly, the hermit says. You have always watched. Now others will watch you. You nod. Not because you feel ready, but because you know the truth of this place now. No one ever feels ready, but the world does not wait for readiness, only resolve. The day before they arrive, the scouts return, 50 soldiers. Metal-clad, well-fed, archers, shields, cavalry, and 2 siege wagons. They fly the black bird crest high above their ranks, bold as brass. They don't try to hide their approach. They believe the village will crumble at the first sight of armor. You almost laugh, because the village is not made of stone, it is made of fire. That night, everyone eats together. A single fire ringed by bodies, children, elders, fighters. Every face turned to the warmth as bread is passed, broth stirred, stories murmured. Someone even sings, off-key but not afraid. You sit beside Perrin, watching the flames. He passes you a wooden charm. The first one my brother carved, he says, before he left. It's a tree, but familiar. He said it would remind me that things grow back, even after fire. You hold it tight. It feels warm. At first light, you take your place. Left line, near the old trench. The soil here remembers. Your boots press into frozen mud. Beside you, Lean strings her bow with careful fingers. Behind you, Hugo sharpens a blade without trembling. Ahead, the world is still. Then you hear it. The distant clang of armor, the creak of wooden wheels. And finally, the horn. Not one of your people. Theirs. It cuts the morning air in half. Your heart beats once, twice, then steadies. You raise your hand, and for the first time, they wait for your signal. You nod, and the village rises. Arrows fly, fire cracks. The first soldiers fall into the trap lines, hidden pits, rolled logs, spikes disguised beneath fallen leaves. The front ranks waver, then tighten. Shields form, pikes lower. The enemy advances. You do not retreat, you hold, you fight. You become the edge of the village. A man charges at you, taller, heavier, shield raised. You roll aside, slash low, feel the blade bite through leather. He stumbles. Perrin finishes him. No words, only breath. The field is chaos, but within it, you move with purpose. Lean's arrows sing above. Gerbert roars like a forged hammer. Osric guards the rear, cutting down those who think the boy can't kill. And through it all, the hermit walks among the flames, staff in one hand, blade in the other, face calm. A storm with a spine. The siege wagons do not reach the walls. They burn long before, flames licking the bird banners until nothing but ash remains. You don't remember how long the battle lasts. Hours, days, a lifetime. But when it ends, when the last soldier flees into the forest, bleeding and blind with fear, you are still standing. The left line holds, the village stands. You fall to your knees in the mud, not from pain but from awe, because you realize something. You did not just survive. You defended. And the ground beneath your hands does not feel cold anymore. It feels like home, to be continued. The battlefield sleeps, not in peace, but in exhaustion. The sun is low, casting long shadows across the torn earth. Bodies lie still in the frost-bitten grass. Some face up, eyes wide in confusion. Others face down, as if trying to return to the soil. The snow has melted where the heat of the battle burned hottest, revealing blackened mud, splintered wood, and the sharp shine of blood drying in the cold. You stand in the middle of it all, breathing. Each inhale is ragged. Each exhale leaves a trace of steam. Your arms ache, your legs feel carved from stone, and your clothes are torn, the edges singed and stiff with grime. But you are alive, and the flag still flies. High above the chapel, its flame symbol blackened by smoke but unbroken. The wounded are brought in first, not many, miraculously. The traps had worked, the old trenches held, the fire burned true. The enemy had not expected resistance from a place they once called forgotten, and so they forgot to fear it. Now they remember. You helped carry Gerbert into the chapel. His shoulder is torn open, blood caked down to his elbow, but he smiles through broken teeth. Got the one who got me, he grunts. Fair trade. Osric moves like a shadow beside you, pressing bandages into place, whispering comfort with a confidence far beyond his years. Hugo sharpens another blade, still smeared with ash, even as he kneels beside a fallen comrade and closes the man's eyes with reverence. No one cries. Not yet. There is too much left to do. The dead are counted by lantern light, 17 of theirs, 3 of yours. Names are spoken aloud, one at a time. The hermit leads the ritual with a small fire burning in a stone bowl. He does not bless them in the old tongue. He does not speak of heaven or paradise. He speaks of rest and roots, and how the ground will remember the weight of their sacrifice. Then, one by one, the bodies are buried along the ridge, the highest place, where the wind will always touch them first. The village does not sleep, but it does not tremble either. The fire in the square is lit not for warmth, but for watching, for remembering, for marking a moment. You sit beside Perrin, his arm bound in rough cloth, a deep bruise blooming down his jaw. His fingers tremble slightly, but his grip on his dagger is steady. He doesn't look at you at first. Then he says, "We held." You nod. "We did." He smiles, just barely. "Didn't think it would feel like this." You ask, "Like what?" He shrugs, "Like we didn't win anything. Just kept something from being taken." You think about that, and you realize he's right. There are no banners to raise, no glory to claim. But the chapel still stands. The fire still burns. The children still sleep. That is enough. That is everything. The next day is for mending. Mending fences, mending wounds, mending the earth. You help Lean gather broken arrows and sort those that can be repurposed. She speaks little, but hums as she works. The song is familiar now, an old lullaby hummed often through winter. When you ask what the words once meant, she only says, something about coming home. You carry buckets of water from the well, each one heavier than the last. You scrub the stone steps clean of blood. You rebind the chapel door with fresh rope. You help Osric carve new pegs for the storage racks. By evening, you are so tired you can barely stand, but it is a good kind of tired. The kind that earns sleep, the kind that says you are needed, and still something stirs. A whisper beneath the peace. The enemy was repelled, but not defeated. Not truly. They will speak of this place now, in tents, in halls, in shadowed corners of the world. They will say the village at the edge of the forest did not fall, that its people stood when others fled. That fire burned where there should have been ash. And with that story will come attention. More eyes, more swords, more trials. The hermit knows this. You see it in his face. He watches the horizon, fingers folded, silent as the dusk. When you ask him if it's over, he replies, "Nothing ends when you begin to matter," and you feel it like a stone in your chest. Weighty, unmovable, true. That night, you walk alone to the northern field. The stars are scattered across the sky like frost on black silk. The moon is thin but clear. The wind whispers in the grass, carrying with it the scent of smoke and thawed earth. You kneel. You press your palm to the ground. You do not speak. You do not pray. You simply listen. And for a moment, a long, lingering moment, you hear something beneath the silence. Not words, not voices, but heartbeat. The heartbeat of a place that refused to die. And in that sound, you remember who you are. Not a traveler anymore, not a visitor, but part of the fire, one of its keepers. And no matter what comes next, you will remain. To be continued. Spring deepens. Where once frost held the world in silence, now there is the murmur of growth. Leaves unfurl like small green sighs. The trees stretch toward the sky again, their branches trembling in the breeze like fingers remembering how to move. The soil grows soft, dark, fragrant with promise, and the sun no longer hides behind clouds. It watches, warm and golden, as life dares to return. The village dares too, not with celebration, but with quiet purpose. Seeds are planted, tools repaired, fences mended not only for defense, but for livestock. The goats return to their pasture, the chickens to their scratching. Osric teaches the younger children how to dig without damaging the roots. Perrin supervises the construction of a new watch platform on the eastern side of the ridge. You rise each day before the sun and rest only after the last fire has been covered in coals. But the tiredness no longer wears you thin, it wears you solid. One morning, you're called to the chapel by the hermit. He sits alone at the altar, cross-legged, a small bundle wrapped in linen before him. His hair has grown long. His eyes, though still sharp, carry something heavier behind them, a deep, quiet wariness. "Sit," he says, "you do." He unwraps the bundle. Inside is a book, old, bound in cracked leather, its spine patched with wax thread. You do not see ink, only pages etched with symbols, lines, circles, faded illustrations drawn in a style older than memory. "What is this?" you ask. His voice is low. "Remembrance." You run your fingers along the edge. The paper is thick, handmade, fragile, yet enduring. "It was passed to me many winters ago," he continues, "by a man who no longer walks these hills. He said it held the story of fire, of those who kept it when the world forgot how." You look up. The hermit watches you closely. "I'm no longer its keeper," he says. "You are." Your breath catches. "I don't know the words," you say. "I don't know the history." "You know what matters," he replies. "You were there. You stood. You remembered. That is enough." He closes your fingers over the book. It is not just for reading. It is for adding to. A pause, then softer. Write what you know before it fades. That night, you do not sleep. You sit near the fire in the chapel's rear, pages spread before you. The ink is made from boiled bark and crushed berries. It smells sharp and wild. You dip the tip of a reed and begin, not with your name, but with a date. The night the riders came, the first fire, the first defense. You write not in elegant words, but in memory. How Perrin shouted, how Hugo bled and didn't cry, how the flag stayed upright even when the wind tried to tear it free. You write until your hand cramps, and still more waits to be said, more waits to be remembered. Spring becomes routine. The scouts report no movement, no new banners, no riders, just the quiet, unsettling stillness of a world in wait. The hermit says nothing more about the book, but sometimes you catch him watching you as you write, his gaze soft, unreadable. One afternoon, Tomas arrives with news. Another village, far to the east, destroyed, not by soldiers, but by starvation. He says they had barricaded themselves for too long, refused trade, hoarded, forgotten the land and the seasons. When spring came, there was no one left to welcome it. The words settle heavily over the fire, but they do not crush, they clarify. Lean speaks first. We are not like them, and no one argues, because they know it's true. This village has not only survived war, it has survived the silence that follows. It has remembered how to live. A few days later, you walk beyond the ridge, farther than before, beyond the line of traps, past the burned cart where the siege wagons fell, into the forest that once felt like a threat and now feels like breath. The trees part near the base of a hill, and you see something new, a path, not worn but emerging, where grass has been flattened, where branches have been bent aside, not from soldiers, from people, travelers, refugees maybe. You return and report what you've seen. The hermit listens, then says, "Let them come." And with those words, the village becomes something more, a beacon. By the end of the month, 3 families arrive, thin, hollow-eyed, carrying what little they could. A woman with 2 sons, a man missing part of his arm. A child so quiet you wonder if she has ever spoken. They are not turned away, they are fed, sheltered, taught to repair fence posts and turn soil. You do not ask where they came from, only what they need now. And when one of the boys looks at the flag and asks what it means, Osric answers, "It means we're still here." You sit by the chapel again that night, the book in your lap. You write their names, the new ones, their laughter, the way the smallest child smiled when she was handed a piece of bread. You write it all, because this too is part of the story. The fight is not over, but the fire is spreading, and the darkness will remember where it found resistance. In the forest, in a village with no name on any lord's map, or one that burns brighter with every soul it saves. To be continued. Summer comes quietly, not with fanfare or the beating of drums, but with warmth that gathers slowly. The mornings are soft now, painted in pale gold. The wind carries the smell of wet grass and blooming herbs. The earth, once frozen and brittle, now pulses with life. The village breathes deeper. It stretches, and it begins to dream again. Fields swell with green. The roots planted in spring rise tall. Cabbages form tight, proud heads. Beans curl upward around wooden poles like dancers reaching for the sun. Children run barefoot between rows, laughter following behind them like banners. Chickens strut through the grass. Goats graze lazily on the hillsides. You help build the granary, a real one this time, with beams joined by wooden pegs, walls sealed with mud and straw. Gerbert supervises, limping but loud, shouting directions through a smile stained with clay. You hammer alongside Hugo, who no longer flinches from loud sounds or shadows. His arms are stronger now, his eyes older. Osric draws a symbol on the door when it's finished. Not a sigil of war, a tree growing from fire, the same symbol from the flag. You say nothing, but when no one's looking, you touch the carving with your fingers. It hums. People keep arriving, one family, then another, then 3 in 1 week. They come with thin shoes and thinner stories. They come from burned villages, from lost camps, from roads lined with broken wagons and broken hearts. They come with silence in their eyes. But slowly that silence unravels. You welcome them. You show them where to sleep, how to dig, how to hold a blade. You teach them what you were once taught. How to listen, how to watch, how to stay alive without hardening into stone. And you watch the village change again. What was once a small cluster of homes is now a small town in spirit. The chapel still stands at its heart, but now there are more fires, more roofs, more laughter echoing through the valley. More stories being added to the great invisible book you carry in your memory and in your ink-stained hands. The fire is growing, not to consume, to warm. One day a rider appears, alone. He bears no crest, no armor, just a walking stick and a horse too tired to flee. He carries a satchel of messages, rolled tightly, bound in leather. His voice is hoarse. They're asking, he says, what this place is. You and Perrin exchange glances. The hermit steps forward. A village, he says. The rider shakes his head. No, they say it's something else. They say it's a flame, a wall, a warning. He opens the satchel, hands you a letter. You break the seal. It is not a threat. It is a question. Will you teach us? You fold the parchment, say nothing for a long time, then nod. Yes. The lessons begin at the edge of the ridge. You and Perrin lead them. Small groups, sometimes just 3 or 4. Young men, older women, girls barely taller than the spears they carry. You show them how to walk in silence, how to listen for breath, for tension in the trees, how to speak with their eyes instead of words. You do not speak of glory, you speak of defending what cannot be rebuilt if lost. The fire. The soil, the small songs sung over stew. Osric teaches how to read wind. Hugo teaches how to climb without snapping a branch. Even the children teach, because everyone here has something they earned through survival. On the summer solstice, the hermit gathers you all at dusk. You stand in the clearing below the ridge, where the trees part just wide enough to show the sky. A fire is built, tall, careful, bright. He says little. He does not give a sermon. He does not praise or weep. He simply stands and says, "This place is no longer hidden, but it is not afraid." And that is enough. You watch the flames reach upward, the sparks chasing stars, and feel the warmth on your face. Not just from the fire, from the people around you, from the land beneath you, from the life you've helped shape, guard, and give away. That night, as the embers cool, you open the book again. You write of the solstice, of the field full of faces you never knew, now lit by hope. You write of the wind through the chapel window, of laughter that no longer sounds borrowed. You write not of what might come next, but of what has already become, a village, a haven, a spark in the long dark. You stop mid-sentence. Listen, not for horns, not for hooves, but for singing. Soft, steady, carried on the wind. It is not a war song, it is a lullaby, and this time you know the words. To be continued. The days grow long. Summer stretches wide, golden and slow. The sun rises early and sets late, casting the village in amber light that feels like memory. The air is thick with the scent of tilled earth, drying herbs and sweat. The rivers run full and clear. The hills bloom with wildflowers. And all around, the soft rhythm of living settles in like a familiar song. But it is not the same village it once was. It is stronger now, wider, watched. The chapel still stands at its center, but new paths lead out in all directions. Small farms dot the woods beyond the ridge. Huts have been joined by cottages. The watchtower has grown taller. The people have too. Even the children speak with quiet purpose, as if they were born already knowing what it means to endure. And they were. You see it in their eyes. You see it in your own. The mornings begin with the bell. Not a metal one, just a hollow log struck 3 times. A soft drumbeat that calls the day into being. It echoes through the village and across the fields, and everyone moves with its rhythm. You rise when it sounds, not because you must, but because it feels right. Today, you are tending the northern grove. The trees there were planted only last year, but already they stretch high, casting shadows across the path where the enemy once stood. Their roots are thick, their leaves full. Perrin says that in another season, they'll be ready for fruit. Hugo walks beside you, carrying a basket. He's taller now, lean and strong. He rarely looks over his shoulder anymore. He's grown into the weight of his name. Osric joins you later, barefoot and humming. He's taken to wearing a small wooden carving around his neck, the same one you found in winter, now worn smooth by time and touch. "Do you think they'll come again?" he asks, eyes on the hills. You consider the question, then answer, "They might." He nods, then shrugs. "Let them." And that is all that needs saying. At midday, a caravan arrives. 5 carts, pulled by shaggy mules, escorted by travelers with blades wrapped in leather and smiles wrapped in wariness. They bring salt, cloth, a barrel of dried fish, and stories. So many stories. One man speaks of a town rebuilt from a ruined monastery. Another of a fire that swept through the southern plains, driving people north. A woman speaks of her child, lost in the chaos of spring, only to find him again in a village west of the river, wearing a necklace carved with a flame and a tree. You bring them water, then food, then names. Because names are the first gift this place offers. Not shelter, not steel, but remembrance. The hermit meets with them in the chapel. He listens, offers no promises, but when they ask to stay, he smiles. There's always room where fire is kept. That night, the wind turns, cooler. The first sign of summer's waning. Perrin joins you near the eastern watch post. His hands rest on the parapet, eyes scanning the forest that stretches into forever. "Do you remember the first day you stood here?" he asks. You do. You remember the fear, the weight of the blade, the way your heart beat so loud you thought it would betray you. You remember thinking, "I won't last here." But now, the same wind that once chilled you feels like a cloak. "I remember," you say. He glances at you. "And now?" You look out over the trees, the hills, the lights glowing from huts where laughter echoes faintly. And you answer, simply, "I'm part of it." He nods, then leans his head back, breathing in the stars. Later, you return to the chapel alone. The fire is low, burning steady in the stone basin. You open the book again, not to write a battle, not to remember pain, but to mark this, the sound of children singing, the feel of clean water on your hands, the curve of parents' quiet smile, the moment a stranger said, "I've heard of this place," and meant it with hope. You write it all, because these are the days that must be remembered most, the days without fear, the days when no horn blows, when the fire is used for cooking, not warning, when sleep comes easily and dreams are not haunted. As you close the book, the wind rattles the shutters gently, the trees whisper outside. You think of Tibod, of the first fire, of the ridge, of the boy you were, of the home you lost and the home you built, and you whisper a truth you never dared to believe before. I belonged here all along. The fire flickers, and the dark outside does not feel so dark anymore. To be continued. The harvest comes like a hymn. It begins with the rustling of wheat fields under wind. Golden stalks sway in long, rippling rows, an ocean of gold where once only blood and fire dared roam. The people move through them with quiet reverence, blades in hand, baskets on their backs, laughter on their lips. Even the children know what to do. Even the elders rise early to help. The earth is generous. Turnips as large as palms, beans that stretch in curling green threads, apples so sweet they stain the tongue with sugar. The bounty is not just enough, it is more than enough, and that is the miracle. Not survival, abundance. You stand in the orchard with Osric, the sun casting long shadows across the grass. He pulls down a pear and hands it to you without speaking. The fruit is warm from the sun, its skin slightly bruised, its taste rich with everything this land has fought to protect. He eats his slowly, eyes half closed, as if memorizing the taste. You don't speak, because nothing needs to be said. You've both lived the hunger, now you live the answer. The hermit watches from the chapel steps. He does not labor like he once did, but his presence is as steady as ever. His staff rests beside him, his hands folded over his knees. He nods to those who pass, his smile tired, content, deep. When you kneel beside him and offer him a slice of roasted squash, he accepts it, but his eyes do not leave the horizon. You remember what this place looked like in winter? He asks. You do. Ash, silence, blood crusting the chapel stones, the wind thin as a knife, and yet you nod. I remember. The hermit turns towards you, the firelight reflected in his gaze. And what do you see now? You glance around. The flags flutter gently, no longer in warning but celebration. The paths are worn with feet, not war. The fields glow with life. Children run through the grass without looking over their shoulders. And you say the only truth that fits, home. Later, as dusk creeps down the hills like a blessing, the village gathers. Not for battle, not for mourning, for song. A long table is built across the square, planks joined end to end, carried by 20 hands. Bowls overflow with roots and greens, bread and broth, meat preserved from the last hunt. Jars of cider are passed, and cups clink like bells. Lean plays a stringent instrument, its notes soft and wandering. Perrin sings a verse, just one, the same lullaby you heard in winter. Others join. Osric hums, then dares to harmonize. Hugo laughs so hard at the end of the verse that bread spills from his mouth, and no one scolds him. You sit in the center of it all. The fire paints the world gold. And for the first time since you arrived here, there is no next to fear, only now to hold. When the meal is done and the stars rise, the hermit calls for silence. He stands slowly, his hands raised not in command but in gratitude. I have seen many things in my years, he says. Fire, flood, famine, and the cruel forgetfulness of war. He looks at you, and then at the others. But I have never seen what you have made here. He walks toward the center, where a small platform has been built, a place meant for a future speaker. He steps back from it, and gestures for you to stand upon it. At first your legs won't move, then they do. You rise, you stand. The people fall silent, waiting not for wisdom but truth. You swallow, then speak. This village was not built with tools. You look at their faces, each marked by weather and time and love. It was built with choice, over and over, the choice to stay, the choice to protect, the choice to light a fire even when the night was darkest. You hold up the old book, the one passed from hand to hand, now filled with ink and memory. This is our story, and it will not be lost. A pause. Then, because we are not done, not even now, not ever, You close the book that night, not because the story ends, but because it begins again, on another page, in another hand, in another heart that dares to hope. The fire outside is low, soft. You lie beside it, wrapped in blankets, stitched by hands you trust, and you fall asleep to the sound of breath, not your own, but of the village, alive, whole, home. You dream, not of war, not of waking in a strange world, but of children laughing beneath trees you planted. And when the dream ends, you do not wake with fear. You wake smiling, because at last you know you have lasted, not just a day, but a life. The end.